Imagine receiving an invitation to the most powerful dinner table on earth, 400 guests, 140 dishes, a feast that reportedly cost the equivalent of feeding an entire province for a year. Now imagine that one of those dishes, served on jade plates in the imperial palace, is still alive when it arrives in front of you. You are in the Forbidden City. The year is 1874, and the woman watching you from the head of the table expects you to eat. Her name is Cixi, and this is the night no diplomat ever forgot. The Qing Dynasty ruled China for over 2.5 centuries, the last great empire of a civilization that stretched back 5,000 years. At its center, behind lacquered screens and golden curtains, sat a woman who was never supposed to hold power at all. She had entered the palace as a teenage concubine of the Xianfeng emperor. Low rank, no inheritance, no allies. By the time she was 30, she had orchestrated a coup, outmaneuvered seasoned generals, and made herself the most powerful person in China. She would rule as regent and empress dowager for 47 years until her death in 1908. Her name meant benevolent and auspicious. Those who crossed her had a different word for her. History knows her as the Dragon Lady of China, and in the winter of 1874, she threw a party that terrified every foreign diplomat who attended it. Understanding Cixi means understanding the language she spoke most fluently, not Mandarin, not politics. Food. Historical records indicate that Empress Cixi required around 350 people working in her kitchens alone. Some accounts suggest she sat down to lunches with 100 dishes, a spectacle as much as a meal. She reportedly spent more than 100 tiles of silver per meal, an amount that could feed 15,000 ordinary farmers for a day. For Cixi, the table was a throne. Every banquet was a demonstration of absolute power. And in early 1873, she gave an order that would take nearly a year to fulfill. She would host a New Year's banquet like the world had never seen, a feast that would span 7 nights, serve 400 guests, and include 140 dishes. The preparation, according to legend, began 11 months in advance. Master chefs were summoned from every province in China. For 2 months, they debated, tested, and refined a menu of extraordinary scope. 7 of those dishes, one for each night, were unlike anything served at any imperial table before or since. What you are about to hear is drawn from Chinese historical and oral tradition. Some elements have been recorded in period accounts, others exist in the gray space between history and legend. All of it reflects a civilization's relationship with power, medicine, and what it meant to be the most feared ruler on earth. We begin not with something horrifying, but with something remarkable. Bird's nest soup is perhaps the most famous luxury food in Chinese imperial history, and its place at Cixi's table was beyond question. The nests used were not ordinary ones. The finest were harvested from sheer cliff faces above the South China Sea, carefully cleaned and cooked with rare ingredients: ginseng water, fine sugar, pear juice, until they became a translucent, gelatinous broth believed to restore youth and vitality. Cixi was obsessed with health and longevity. This dish was not just food, it was medicine, it was a statement, and it was merely the beginning. Near the Tianhua Mountains of Shandong province, there was a forest of a rare variety of pear tree, said to cure fever, liver disease, and chronic cough. A troop of wild monkeys had lived in that forest for generations, eating nothing but those medicinal pears. And according to tradition, their brain matter, infused with the fruit's medicinal properties, had become one of the rarest tonics in the empire. Cixi ordered 200 young monkeys captured. The reward for each, a small fortune. What followed was one of the most disturbing dishes in the history of imperial dining. Each set of 5 guests shared one monkey. The animal was bathed, perfumed, and placed alive inside a specially made drum-shaped box, its head protruding through a circular opening at the top. A single practiced blow rendered it unconscious. The skull was opened. Hot ginseng broth was poured across the brain matter, just enough to barely cook its surface. Silver spoons were provided. The guests ate in silence. According to popular historical accounts, at least one foreign diplomat quietly left the table and did not return. This dish required patience measured in days, not hours. Young mountain goat, raised in a specialized enclosure and fed a diet of medicinal grasses, including the legendary cordyceps, were slaughtered, their carcasses submerged in aged rice wine and ginger water. Over 10 days, flowers were inserted through their bodies. By the 10th day, something emerged inside those flowers, tiny white larvae. The larvae, not the goat itself, were the dish. Believed by traditional Chinese medicine to treat paralysis and tuberculosis, they were served as medicine, prepared as cuisine. This was the Qing imperial court at its most extreme, where the line between healing and horror disappeared entirely. Not every dish shocked, some simply astonished. From Fuzhou in the south came a special breed of pig, its meat uniquely flavored by a rare root vegetable found only in the hills of that region, a plant that could not survive if transplanted elsewhere. 60 pigs were brought to the capital. They were bred, raised on ginseng water, and their offspring, the third generation, were used for the feast. Piglets no older than 2 months, marinated for 3 days in precious medicinal herbs, then steamed to perfection. Western diplomats who attended wrote in their memoirs that the pork was the most tender, fragrant meat they had ever tasted. This is the dish most contested by historians, living in the space between culinary tradition and imperial mythology. The concept, mice bred across 3 generations exclusively on a diet of wild ginseng root. Only the third generation, raised on ginseng from birth, possessed what traditional medicine called the full accumulated potency of the root. They were served newborn, still moving, presented on jade plates the size of a palm. According to the account, Cixi picked one up, ate it, and waited, watching. The room did not follow. Whether this dish was literally served or belongs to the mythology of Cixi's reign as the most fearsome ruler in the world, no diplomatic memoir has confirmed it. But the story itself says something true. No one at that table was certain what the limits were. One dish required no animal at all. The fangji grass was said to grow only on a single boulder at the peak of Mount Taihang, only in leap years, only at the Mid-Autumn Festival, living for 30 to 45 days before dying with the first cold wind. Harvesting it required a white horse, a precise ritual, and perfect timing. Emperor Kangxi himself had reportedly been cured of a chronic illness by this plant, according to court records. At Cixi's banquet, it was prepared with dragon beard vegetable and served as a cleansing course. Guests who ate it, according to accounts, reported feeling no hunger or thirst for an entire month afterward. Fact, exaggeration, or imperial propaganda? Perhaps all three. The final and most logistically extraordinary dish. Peacock eggs were listed among the rarest delicacies in Chinese imperial records. And for good reason. Peacocks nest in remote, inaccessible locations. They are fiercely territorial, and if they sense their nest is threatened, they destroy their own eggs. Cixi's agents failed to retrieve a single egg. Then a young military officer came forward with an idea. His relative in Sichuan province had trained 100 intelligent monkeys, capable of following human commands, accustomed to working in remote forests. Cixi rewarded him handsomely and sent him to Sichuan to attempt the impossible. The monkeys were trained specifically for the task, dispatched to the nesting grounds of peacocks in the wild. 500 eggs were retrieved. One-third of the monkeys did not survive the mission, killed by the birds protecting their nests. The eggs were cooked, served, and eaten. No record survives of how they tasted, only that they existed and that Cixi had them. The New Year's banquet of 1874 ended. The guests returned to their embassies, their countries, their ordinary lives. But some of them wrote about it. Memoirs, dispatches, private letters, fragments of accounts that describe not just what they ate, but what they felt, sitting across the table from the most powerful woman in the world, in a palace built on thousands of years of imperial will. Cixi was called the Dragon Lady, described as cunning, ruthless, and Machiavellian. History has debated whether she was a tyrant who accelerated China's decline or a pragmatist who modernized a dying empire as fast as she dared. Under her reign, railways, electricity, telephones, and a modern navy arrived in China. She also imprisoned her own nephew, the emperor, for daring to reform too quickly. She may have poisoned him when she was dying. She contained multitudes. She defied simple judgment. What is certain is this: by the time the last foreign diplomat stepped out of the Forbidden City after that 7-night feast, they understood something the rest of the world was still learning. China was not a nation in decline. It was a civilization ruled by a woman who could order the impossible and receive it by morning. The empire fell 14 years after her death. Some historians say it fell because of her. Others say it simply could not survive without her. The kitchens are silent now, and somewhere in the imperial archives there are records of every dish served at that banquet.